After long standoff in Ladakh, big troop pullback likely soon.
इतना यकीन दिलाना चाहता हूं, भारत की 1 इंच जमीन को भी दुनिया की कोई ताकत छू नहीं सकती है, उस पर कब्जा नहीं कर सकती।
Assertive India eyes peace.
Our posturing is unambiguous. We will not accept any shifting of the line of actual control.
China to accept India's terms.
We are very well positioned, and there is no question that in any conflict scenario there, China can get the better of us.
Big breakthrough in LAC talks.
So top sources in the government are telling India today that there may be a pullback, and as early as Diwali it could start. It will happen in 3 phases. As part of the first phase, the artillery pieces, the armored personnel carriers and the tanks move back some distance as a confidence building measure to be verified by both sides. That's step 1. Step 2, China will pull back to Finger 8 and India to Dhansing Thapa post. What does this actually mean on ground? And step 3 is where China expects India to pull back from the Rizangla, Richinla, the Chota Kailash heights, which dominate the Chinese garrison at Chushul, Moldo area. I'm Gaurav Sawant. We have the finest experts to help us decode what's in the plans. I have Professor Brahma Chilani and Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain joining me on the broadcast. But first, as always, let's get started. And on India First, let's get started with our top story. Will there actually be a disengagement? Remember, there have been multiple false dawns, and in one scenario, when China did agree to a pullback, there was a situation in Galwan where we lost 20 braves of ours trying to restore the sanctity of the line of actual control. China lost an unspecified number of soldiers. By some accounts, more than 40 Chinese soldiers were either killed or injured. But now it's the harsh reality that's sinking in. Temperatures have already plummeted to well below 30 degrees at the line of actual control. There are indications, there are intelligence inputs that seem to indicate that the Chinese side has been facing a large number of weather-related casualties. Is this the reason why China is now more agreeable to a withdrawal? India Today's Manjeet Singh Negi with our top story tonight.
India and China have agreed to a roadmap for disengagement at the LAC in Ladakh. During the 8th round of Corps Commander talks, there was discussion on phased and mutual disengagement from friction points. As part of the 3-phase disengagement plan, the Chinese troops have agreed to withdraw beyond Finger 8 and restore the April 2020 position. India too will withdraw to the Dhansing Thapa administrative post. There will be 30% troop withdrawal every day for 3 days.
We have been insisting also on it that they leave the area between Finger 4 to 8 where they were not there in the earlier stages and where they have now established themselves. So if both these things are really taken care of, I would say it's an even game, fair to both of them. And with a verification mechanism having been worked out between them, it can be ensured that they go back and we do not have any more problem as the winter gets more and more severe.
As part of the mutual verification in the phased withdrawal process, tanks, artillery and armored personnel carriers will be withdrawn first. And then in the 3rd phase of withdrawal, troops will return from frontline confrontation to their old positions from the friction points south of Pangong Lake, including Rezangla and Richinla posts. The process is likely to be very slow given the zero trust on ground after the Galwan clash on June that led to 20 Indian braves making the supreme sacrifice of their lives, killing an unknown number of Chinese troops. Sources say the harsh winter is a major reason for sudden keenness on the Chinese side to withdraw.
The 6-month-long India-China standoff in eastern Ladakh may come to an end soon before Diwali, as the two sides are carrying out disengagement process as per their agreements in 8th round of Corps Commander level talks. This will be the first time in India-China military relation history that Chinese would vacate the land and go back to their own territory in China. Once this happens, it would be seen as the major victory for the Narendra Modi government. This is Manjit Negi for India Today.
But can India trust China, especially after what happened at the Galwan Heights? That's point one. And point two, remember, it's not just about disengagement or moving back a couple of kilometers. The Chinese can quickly come again if they want. So it's not only disengagement, there's also de-escalation, and most important of the three, de-induction. De-induction of the multiple Chinese divisions. Initially there were two divisions, a motorized division and a mechanized division, and then additional forces that seem to slowly creep up all along the 800-kilometer long line of actual control in Ladakh. So de-induction is of equal importance, and are we looking at the picture in its entirety? Let me quickly go across to India Today's Manjeet Singh Negi before I bring in General Atta Hasnain and Professor Brahmachalani. But Manjeet, can you give us details, the contours of the roadmap that is being worked out, especially on the verification aspect?
Yes, Gaurav, we can say that it's a major victory for our forces to possibility of resolving the Indo-China border conflict in the bright, as the two countries have agreed to time-bound disengagement from the Finger area and Pangong Lake and return to their old position, in April position. And the two sides also agreed that disengagement from the both southern and the northern bank of the Pangong, and the process might over after the Diwali within a week. So we can say that this is the first time in India-China military relation that Chinese army would vacate the land and they go back their own territory.
Which is very good. That's a very positive signal. The question remains, can India trust China? Stay with me, Manjeet, as I bring in General Hasnain to help us make sense of this. General Hasnain, you commanded your troops in exactly this area where the first phase of withdrawal is being talked about, areas between Finger 4 to Finger 8, where the Chinese will go back beyond Finger 8, but they expect us to come back to the Dhansing Thapa administrative post. What does this mean, sir?
See, Gaurav, firstly, let me say that I welcome this very, very positive development which is taking place, and we are all going to be monitoring this very, very positively in the next few days. But having said that, to your specific question, it means that the Finger area, which is Fingers 1 to Finger 8, we are at the moment restricted to Finger 4. In fact, virtually to Finger 3. The lower areas on the northern bank of the Pangong So is a place called Sirijap. Sirijap is a set of three posts which were held in 1962, where Major Dan Singh Thapa held on, if you remember, with his troops. The 8th Gurkhas held on against the Chinese attacks. He was later, I think, awarded the Paramveer Chakra also. He was one of the living Paramveer Chakras of that time. Then what happens is, this is the area which we are looking at, that we will have to probably pull back to the lower areas of the Pangong Lake, and the higher reaches will be vacated. And obviously the Chinese are going to vacate from Finger 4 to Finger 8. We have been patrolling from Finger 4 to Finger 8 earlier. Now it appears that the agreement is going to be that no one will be permitted to patrol from Finger 4 to Finger 8, which means the approaches coming up to Marsamikla, from the northern bank, will have no troops present there, no one patrolling that area. Although we will be allowed to patrol till Finger 3 and Finger 4. That is the broad contours of this northern Pangong So area.
Stay with me. Professor Brahmachalani, what do you make of it? Is this India's resolve, or is this China trying to say that India now will not be on any of the fingers, neither will China?
China may not have wise leaders, but do they have foolish leaders? Would China commit brazen aggression, encroach on Indian areas, merely then to retreat 7 months later with nothing to show to their public? Obviously, there's more to it than what we are letting on. And let's not forget two things. First, the Chinese have rapidly militarized the entire border with India, from Ladakh to Arunachal Pradesh in the last year and two. They have created permanent infrastructure. And in the Ladakh areas where they've encroached upon, they've created roads and other permanent infrastructure. Now that militarization of the border will not be reversed. Second, as far as the disengagement is concerned in the Pangong Lake area, you very rightly, Gaurav, pointed out that this deal will be about disengagement, not about de-induction of forces. There can be many a slip between the cup and the lip. We have to be aware of the fact that we are dealing with a wily and ruthless foe that rarely keeps its word.
Absolutely.
We have been dealing with China for the last 70 years. And ever since the Panchsheel Agreement was signed in 1954, the Chinese sign on to documents and then they break their word. So we have to be very, very careful.
So they keep saying Hindi Chini bhai bhai. Absolutely. Bring your hearts together if you must, but keep your tents apart. That's very essential. But in the case of China, do not trust at all. Verify first. And General Hasnain, since you've commanded troops here, can we trust China? Can we trust China at all? Because they're only talking about disengagement, which means they move back 2 kilometers. They have a huge garrison at Moldo, and they can come from finger 8 to finger 4. And if we are not there at finger 4, they can roll down all the way up to Pangong So and evict us. And I'm not saying that we will permit them to do so. We have a very strong army, and I've seen our army on ground like you have. You've served there, sir. But are we in a perhaps wish to disengage? Are we giving in too much?
Firstly, Gaurav, I entirely agree with what Professor Brahmachalani has said. China would not have invested so much in its border infrastructure, in the deployment, in bringing in 2 additional divisions, etc., only to just withdraw and take them back. I think a deeper study needs to be done as to what really was the intent and what is the intent currently. Is it that China has achieved its aim, whatever limited aim it had, and is therefore decided to de-escalate and go back or whatever? Or is it that they have decided that this is a temporary measure that they are undertaking only to return subsequently next year and the year after that? To my mind and assessment, the second option is the one which I am looking at. A temporary kind of a de-escalation, disengagement, primarily catering to the winter period. And then next year, looking at the geopolitical situation of the world, looking at what next to do. So I would say also go to the extent of saying the last time we had a major problem on the 15th, 16th of June was exactly after the de-escalation and disengagement process was brought into place. If you remember, CO-16 Bihar's whole operation, that event was all about going and verifying. So verification is the most important aspect. Although this operation, this post-agreement may take 4, 5 or 6 days, but I expect that this will get elongated to quite an extent with a fair amount of verification done all along. And at the same time, we have now deployed extensively in eastern Ladakh. We cannot hope to just withdraw like this from there. And we hope to bring it back south of the Ladakh range. Whatever we have inducted on the other side has to remain there.
Absolutely, and we shouldn't put these deadlines on ourselves, this added pressure of a Diwali withdrawal. It's almost like Jayadratha Vad, where Arjun said, if I don't kill Jayadratha by sundown, I'll kill myself. Why do we put all these, deadlines on ourselves, Professor Brahmachalani? We should, in case China's suffering, China's pain should be as long as we can, because it's not just about finger 4 to finger 8. It's about Hot Spring, it's about Galwan, and it's about Depsang. Depsang is the elephant in the room, or the gorilla in the room, that nobody seems to be talking about, Professor Chilani.
You have hit the nail on the head, Gaurav. You are one of the very few reporters who has been to Depsang. You know that the Depsang plains are the most critical of all the Ladakh sectors for Indian defenses. Because of their relatively flat surface, the Depsang plains can serve as a PLA launch pad to cut through Ladakh and reach Pakistan's Baltistan. But Depsang is not even being discussed by the two sides. The focus on Pangong is obscuring the critical sector of Depsang. The fact that the biggest Chinese encroachment is in Depsang, the largest encroachment is there. It's the most critical of all the sectors in Ladakh, and yet we are focused on the southernmost sector, the Pangong Lake area, forgetting the Chinese are sitting at the Depsang Y junction virtually and blocking our access to multiple points. The second thing we have to remember that even in Pangong, we are creating a buffer zone. And in the buffer zone, it's not just the PLA retreating. It's that we are retreating from area that was under our exclusive jurisdiction.
Absolutely.
Let me just make one thing clear.
Absolutely.
The disputed area was only from fingers 4 to 8, right? But the Indian side will now withdraw to the area closer to between fingers 2 and 3 to the Thapa administrative post, which is between fingers 2 and 3. So we're retreating even beyond. We're retreating further back from areas that were undisputed in the sense they were under India's exclusive patrolling jurisdiction. Same thing happened with the buffer zones.
And let me
just complete. Same thing happened
with the buffer zones were a disaster. Yes, even the first time, if I may take this to General Hasnain. General Hasnain, if I may, when we patrol up to our PPs, petrol point, all the way from PP1 to 12, 13, 14, 15, Alpha, 17, all these petrol points are short of our perception of the line of actual control. So anyways, the China study group in its wisdom, whenever it decided the PPs, we were anyway short of the LAC, and now we seem to be coming back even shorter. So is that really advisable?
See, Gaurav, if there has to be an agreement, firstly, this agreement cannot be completely on our terms. This, I think, we have to understand and be very clear about, right? So I won't say that we have to be emphasizing, focusing on our return absolutely to the line of actual control as per our perception. There will be a give and take at this stage. Perhaps this is what I contemplate in these deliberations which are going on. And I don't see these deliberations coming to an end. This is a very good step which has been taken, that we have remained in engagement. But I do agree that, yes, buffer zones is not the best way of resolving, because you physically lose control over a large tract of area which was under your control. And therefore, perceptionally, that area has gone away. But then you must remember that a buffer zone is supposed to be applicable to the other side also. So whatever you are losing is also being lost by the other side. That's the way to look at the larger picture of
But the other side does not honor its word. The other side is a crook.
That
other
is the
side is
most
a very
important
well-known
which I've been
crook
emphasizing.
that does not...
Verification. Verification is the most important aspect of this entire game.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Also, in a very important part, let me now come to south of Pangong. So now this is one area where China gets very angry, because China says we've gone into their territory and we are dominating the Moldo garrison. The Indian army in that brilliant operation went and took control of Rizangla, Richinla, the Spangur Gap area, the Gurung Hill and the Magar Hill area, the Chota Kailash. They want us to move back from that area to the April 2020 position. Is that, Professor Chilani, in your appreciation, and the Indian Army was at all these points in 1962, advisable to come back from there to peacetime location till the time China doesn't get back from Depsang?
The viewers should know that China is on flat terrain, the Indians are on mountainous terrain, and once we pull back our armored forces, it will take us days to redeploy them, while by contrast, the Chinese can redeploy their armored forces very quickly, within hours. So, pullback of forces on paper might sound reasonable, but in reality, it disadvantages India. So, if the Indians believe that they can trust the Chinese, that the Chinese will not now, but later, at some period later, maybe next year or the year after that, seek to capture those very areas that India is not controlling, then the Indians can proceed. But I go back to the point that even the disengagement process, as it has been implemented in Galwan Valley, in Hot Springs, Kogra, and now the plan for the northern side of Pangong Lake, disadvantages India because it makes India retreat from areas that were under its exclusive jurisdiction, where there was no dispute. For example, in Galwan Valley, Indians have retreated beyond the estuary of the Galwan River, where Galwan meets with Shok River. Or if you look at what we're planning to do, that in Pangong, that we are going to retreat now to between fingers 2 and 3. That is, we are retreating even further back, even though there was no dispute, up to finger 4. So similarly, I think on the southern side of the Pangong Lake, an Indian pullback, especially pulling back, given the rugged terrain in which the Indians are, and the Chinese then pulling back, but having the advantage to seize those territories at very short notice. This is a gamble that India is taking, and I'm not sure whether, without a full resolution of the standoff and an agreement to not just to disengage rival forces at friction points, but to de-escalate and to de-induct forces and to restore normalcy, unless there is a larger
20
deal.
braves.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
So such compartmentalized
20
deals, in my
made
view,
the supreme sacrifice of their lives.
are very risky.
Yes. General Hasnain, what is the guarantee, if at all, that China will not come back next summer or the summer after that? Or are we that confident that if they do, we'll also go and occupy some place? Because China may go back right now, but next summer when it comes back, it will occupy Gurung Hill and Magar Hill and Rizangla and Richindla first. And then would we not be in a double jeopardy for us, a double whammy for us, sir?
See, Gaurav, it is almost similar to saying that let's withdraw from Siachen. And one fine day, the Pakistan army comes and deploys on the Saltoro, and we have to go back to evict them from there. It is almost similar to that. So today we are sitting pretty with the 7 heights that we have got on the Chota Kailash range. Yes. Obviously, the Chinese are perturbed because we are dominating the Moldo garrison. Our tanks are right on top, almost on top there. Therefore, at this time, the only compromise we really are making, of course, the North Pangong, so we are making a bit of a compromise, but the biggest compromise we are going to make is the vacation of these 7 points on the Chota Kailash.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether this is the final agreement, which is what is emanating. Because I do think that this will have to be a very progressive kind of a thing. You can't have us picking up our baggage from those 7 points and just returning back and waiting for the Chinese to probably next season come back and occupy them. So there has to be a
And I also want to see what's the give on the Chinese side.
There has to be patrolling rights. Patrolling rights are essential for this.
Absolutely. What's the give on the Chinese side? That's point 1. Point 2, China's the aggressor. China needs to go back, and that's something, especially at a time when the Prime Minister, the Defense Minister, the Home Minister, the Army Chief, the Chief of Defense Staff, they've all said there will be no compromise with national security and territorial integrity. We'll track the story very, very closely. But as always, General Hasnain and Professor Brahmachalani, many thanks for joining me on this India First special. A quick break. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.